U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services. Notice of decision. Upon consideration, it is ordered that your application to register permanent residence or adjust status form I-485 that you filed on May 29th, 2012 be denied for the reasons you are a citizen and a national of Saudi Arabia. My name is Abdul Majid Al-Hamawi. I'm a Muslim immigrant from Saudi Arabia. In 2005, I moved to Houston, Texas with my family because of my dad's job. When I first moved here, it was completely a culture shock. It was completely different than anything I've experienced back in my hometown in Saudi Arabia. The fact that everybody's separate, women and men are separated, and women are all covered from head to toe, to land in a place where you can see girls in shorts, everything like that was completely just mind-blowing for me. Just walking into the airport for the first time in New York, seeing all these people, seeing girls, seeing their hair, seeing just the way that they act was just completely foreign for me. It was alien. Growing up with my culture, it was completely natural for the father to be basically the king of the household. He would have control over his children and his wife. So when I was a kid, I would experience my dad just abusing that power, basically abusing his kids, abusing my mom in front of my siblings and myself. And it was natural, so I never questioned it, But when I moved to America and I actually started to, mix my culture with other people, I noticed, that's wrong. It's not okay. It's not natural. And the more I stayed here, the more I grew, the more I realized, yeah, it can't continue. One day my sister had a really, really high fever. And me and my family, my mom were at the house, but my dad was at work. We wanted to go take her to the hospital, but we couldn't because my dad would, how he was really controlling. He would lock the door basically so nobody would go in and grab the car keys or anything without his permission or without him being there. So I decided, you know what? I don't care. I snuck in through the window, grabbed the keys, and told my mom, let's go. Let's take my sister to the hospital. So as we get in the car, we turn it on, we start driving out. My dad came in rushing through the window. He's like, hey, where are you going? How'd you get the car keys? And I told him, hey, I grabbed it. My sister's really sick. We had to take her to the hospital. You weren't answering the phone. He's like, no, you can't do anything without my permission. So he reached in for the ignition to grab the keys away. And my mom grabbed these hands like, no, let's take her to the hospital. And he got really angry about that. He got extremely angry. So he reached in the car through the window and punched my mom in the face. As soon as I see that happen, I just lost control and I opened the car and I rushed and I tackled him to the ground. And I was ready to hit him. I was ready to hit my dad. And my mom rushes in, grabs me, pulls me away, and it's like, hey, don't hit your dad no matter what. I backed off and I was like, okay, Dad, I love you, but I don't want to ever see you hit my mom. And my dad, out of rage, he's like, you're mine, she's mine, I do whatever I want. And he rushed in again and punched my mom second time. And I just couldn't have it. So I tackled him. And we were wrestling on the floor. And I heard my baby sister crying, my mom screaming at me. So I backed off. I was like, hey, go in the house or I'm going to call the cops. Tell my dad. So he goes in the house. And me and my family just sit in the car. They're just completely shocked and confused of what to do. And my mom said, okay, let's just wait it out. Let's act like nothing happened. Go in the house and wait it out. That's what we did. A couple of months later, that passed, we acted like we forgot about it, but not really. And my dad had a work trip and he had to go back to Saudi Arabia for 6 months or so. And when he did, me and my siblings got together and we grabbed my mom. We was like, hey, we got to do something. It's time to, change this. This is not okay. So we gather all our stuff, as much stuff as we can from the house, and we leave. No money, no any kind of financial support, and we go live in a 2-bedroom apartment with 8 people for a while. As soon as my dad came back, he stripped all our papers away because he worked at the embassy, and he was just furious. He was angry, So he stripped all our papers away, and he made a complaint to the embassy, and they suggested for him to leave, so he left right away after my mom filed for divorce, and we were illegal ever since. After that, we waited 4-5 years just fighting that with immigration, and they gave us our IDs and stuff like that. At the end, they declined it. They rejected us, and the reasoning for it is discretion. They said, "You are a citizen of Saudi Arabia, and we do not accept you here. Either we appeal our case with the diplomatic adjustment, or we file for asylum, or I get married." But that's a whole different story. Basically, if we file for asylum, they need to know without a doubt that if we leave and get deported to Saudi Arabia, that we would be in danger. And that is the case. My dad now has a really high place in the government in Saudi Arabia. So if we move back, he's gonna make my mom and our lives living hell. Because basically the laws over there are always for the man, not for the woman or the children. We have no rights. So that's where we are. If they decide not, we're gone after almost 11 years. Watching TV and watching all this news and election and basically just all these arguments about immigrants being dangerous and being a threat to society or the community or to the actual nation, just, I don't know, it just grosses me out. It doesn't make sense. I am the same as anybody else. When Trump talks about Muslims specifically as being dangerous and terrorists, that's just ignorant. That's just being closed-minded. I grew up in the same place as any other American. Same high school, same junior high, same friends, love the same sports. It's just the fact that people believe him needs to change. So people like me and my family have a chance of staying, and we don't get deported just purely out of discretion. How I feel about leaving, I'm really scared. Really scared. I don't want to leave. I want to stay. Saudi Arabia is not my home. America is my home. My family is my friends, people I love. And I hope everything will work out and I get to stay and have a future here where it's safe.
With February being Black History Month, leaders in Texas State's Black community stepped up to empower and educate.
I mean, Black History Month every year is a holiday. I feel like I find myself just talking to other Black people and saying Happy Black History Month like it's Merry Christmas.
The Pan-African Action Committee at Texas State spread out festivities over the last 7 days of February. Black Excellence Week ends with Black Fest, a festival celebrating the Black community at Eddie Durham Park. In collaboration with Naturally You, the Pan-African Action Committee aimed to break stereotypes, including the stigma around the word Black.
When they say Black, they should think about this diversity and this excellence and this good, positive time, rather than thinking about whatever politicized thing that has been that it's been turned into.
The festival brought together poets, activists, and artists to highlight the talent within the Black community. Leaders in the community sparked conversation about organizing the youth, the beauty in natural hair, and working to get their voices heard.
A lot of people want a large, spacious house as their dream home. But for some people, their dream home comes in a much smaller package. Austin Live Work, a tiny home community, has begun to grow and settle on the outskirts of Austin.
I was studying for my graduate studies in gerontology, and all the research papers I was reading, they kept on saying that you live longer, happy, healthier lives within community. So figured that we'll start one.
In 2014, Austin Live Work started with just one tiny home, but that number has since risen to about 25 and counting.
Not only has this tiny home community grown over the past few years, but so has the bond between the residents here.
Because we're closer physically, tend to, go to each other, stand and talk about your day, and you get to know each other better. We also have a secret group on Facebook, and that's how we correspond. We ask for each other's help. So it gels the community.
The residents here have adopted sustainable living practices, like growing their own food and using less energy. They say their expenses average about $50 a month. Tiny houses aren't for everybody, but the residents here believe the tiny home movement will continue to spread.
Tiny house living, I think it's something that's definitely going to continue to keep going. It's something that is just really easy to do. You can build it on your own. You can make it any size you want, but you can also take it just about anywhere.